Bedrock Edition is a surname for the cross-platform version of Minecraft. This is why it sucks. Keep in mind I'm a console player, so this will mostly be from the perspective of someone who grew up with the Xbox 360 edition. I'm aware that Java is by far the best version of the game, but I don't have a PC that can run it at any higher than 5 FPS, so I stick to the consoles. There are three primary versions of Minecraft: Legacy Edition, or more simply, insert console name edition. There's Java Edition for PC, and Bedrock Edition, which is available on all sorts of platforms because of its cross-platform ability. I first started playing this game in like 2010 on the 360. Through time, the console edition received updates, but it was never as up-to-date as the Java version. The same trend of being behind a few updates followed on Xbox One, but that didn't bother me because the game was entertaining enough as is on 1.12. I can't say I really wanted or needed any more features or improvements beyond this point. Maybe better swimming mechanics would be nice, but there was plenty enough in the game. When Microsoft took over and announced the new cross-platform version of Minecraft, I was pretty excited. I would be able to play my epic worlds with legendary PC gamers like Clay. But it didn't end up being so simple. Bedrock Edition pretty much launched in version 1.13, better known as the Aquatic Update. This overhauled oceans, added shipwrecks, and introduced sprint swimming. Alongside the launch of Bedrock, Java Edition also received this update, and Pocket Edition just became Bedrock. It would launch on the consoles as a standalone game. So, what about the Legacy Editions? To my and many others' dismay, they would become cast aside and forgotten. Microsoft literally pretends they don't exist, and that's sad, because they were a really refined version of the game. Insultingly, Microsoft would release the 1.13 update to the Xbox 360, but not Xbox One. So the 360 Legacy Edition runs on 1.13, and the Xbox One Edition runs on 1.12, with the ability to upload worlds from the past generation rendered completely useless and non-functional now. The Xbox One Edition's sole purpose now is to act as a bridge for uploading your 360 worlds to the Bedrock Edition. Despite their efforts to make me play Bedrock, I still play the Xbox One Edition much more often. It's probably because I'm just used to it, but I know I'm not alone when I say Minecraft Bedrock Edition sucks. For simplicity's sake, I'll be comparing Bedrock to Minecraft Xbox One Edition, but I know the many other console versions and releases for less popular platforms are out there and have their own benefits and drawbacks. Number 1. Everything is glitchy and broken even after 1.16. Bedrock has been out for 5 years now, and it is still plagued by an unprofessional amount of near game-breaking glitches, such as broken terrain generation, taking damage out of literally nowhere for no reason, lag in single-player games, frame rate drops in multiplayer games when near other players, disorganized spawn mechanics, a laggy and thrown together menu system that seems to randomly select things that you never even scrolled over, and many more things that the old Legacy Edition just simply doesn't have. Xbox One Edition renders terrain and biome borders as well as Java. You never take damage out of literally nowhere for no reason, which honestly isn't something I should have to use in my defense of the game. It doesn't lag in single player, and there are no random frame rate drops unless you make some wild Redstone lag machine. Spawn mechanics are fair and balanced, and the menu system, not just on the main screen but in the game, is crisp and reactive, remembering selections without a touch of hesitation from the game's engine. Now I understand they had to revamp the menus for compatibility on all platforms, but that's not why I'm here. It could have been done a lot better, and given 5 years to fix the issues, I think it's inexcusable for a company such as Microsoft to deliver something like this. Legacy Edition has only one glitch I've found in 1.12, that being the backspace key on external keyboards doesn't work on signs, meaning you have to open the keyboard menu if you mistype something. So, comparing that one glitch to a game that has more glitches than actual functioning mechanics means I've pretty much won the argument already, but I'm going to keep going because now I'm heated. Number 2. Microtransactions. There's no escaping these nowadays, but even so, old Minecraft doesn't use a scandalous in-game currency to inaccurately represent real-world money. In the Legacy Edition, there are add-ons, but when you buy them, they are posted in real dollar amounts, not mine coins, which are Bedrock's COD points. The whole marketplace section of Bedrock is designed to pry at the internal impulses of a young child, denoting everything with shiny buttons and examples of, everyone else has this, why don't you? Number 3. They changed how Redstone works. For no reason. Redstone is arguably the most complicated thing in the whole game, and when the majority of the player base doesn't understand how to use it, and then you change how it works in the new version, it's not only going to discourage learners, but piss off veterans like myself who use it to create adventure maps and complex machines, only to find that all these creations no longer function in Bedrock because of the new coding language. Bedrock Redstone is actually even different than Java Redstone, so you PC players might understand what I'm saying here. To give one example I can think of off the top of my head, this mechanism makes a button act as a lever. Instead of the button staying on for only 1 second, it effectively changes it to a toggle, using this sticky piston to alter the location of this block. Now I can transfer the world to Bedrock, and suddenly this contraption just simply doesn't work. And yes, I know there are many ways to make a machine that has the same function, but when you have a big-ass map like this, and literally none of the redstone works, you have a lot of work ahead of you that is just straight up unnecessary. Because there was nothing wrong with the old redstone mechanics. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Number 4. You cannot exit without saving. Continuing with the topic of adventure maps, many of my mini-games require the option of exit without saving, which resets the game. To put it simply, let's say me and the boys play a round of Hunger Games, looting chests, breaking blocks, and altering the world. When the game is over, I can exit without saving to reset everything back to exactly how it was when we started. There is no way to do this on Bedrock. Your only option is to exit and save. So anything that happens in any of your worlds cannot be undone. You can't work around this either, quitting the application, shutting off your console, or even if the game crashes, as it often likes to do, it will save the world anyway. So literally every single minigame or adventure map anyone has ever made on the Legacy Edition is only good for one playthrough. That is, of course, if the redstone works. Number 5. Infinite Worlds. Many might see this as a drawback of the Legacy Console Edition, but there were no infinite worlds. This means, though, that you can choose how big you want the world to be, anywhere from 864 by 864 to a whopping 5120 by 5120. This option has a handful of benefits, such as world-spanning minigames, a smaller file size, and the entire world can fit on a 5x5 grid of maps. In Bedrock, you have two options. The world is either a cramped 255 by 255, the old Pocket Edition world size, or infinite. There is no in-between. 255 blocks is too small to do anything noteworthy, and infinite is impractical for world-based minigames. Infinite worlds are cool, but 5,000 blocks in all directions is more than enough to work with. Number 6. Player movement. This is more of a console-specific gripe, but the game's sensitivity, both with moving the screen and flying around in creative mode, is just weird. It feels loose, like the steering in an old Jeep, and it drags like you're on ice. It makes aiming difficult, and the way you drift every time you change directions, and the way the screen sensitivity isn't fixed, as in when I push the right stick straight left, the screen starts turning slowly and exponentially increases speed as time goes on. It's subtle, but it's there, and there's no way to turn it off. In the Legacy Edition, everything is static. When I push the stick left, the screen turns left at whatever rate I have the sensitivity set for, and when I let go of the stick, it doesn't drift for another few pixels. It stops wherever I was looking. The same thing for flying. When I stop moving the joystick, my character stops instantly. On Bedrock, there's this slight drift, as if I'm constantly in a boat or something. Legacy Edition also has this cardinal direction moving system for flying. The game only lets you move in 8 directions, which is really helpful for placing long strings of blocks, as one tends to do in creative mode. It acts as a guide rail system, keeping everything lined up. On Bedrock, there is no such system. You can move in whatever random direction the game feels like letting you, even on PC with arrow keys. This is really annoying when trying to build long lines of blocks, as you have to angle yourself in a manner that doesn't let you drift around, which takes time. And any time you gain from the increased building speed of Bedrock, you lose in positioning to compensate for this stupid loose movement system. This whole flying thing isn't really a problem in survival mode, but for the people out there who actually play creative mode, it's another featureless feature that has no place in the game. Number 7. The inventory. On Bedrock, navigating the inventory is a mess. The selector moseys its way across the screen and might land on what you're aiming for. Unlike the Legacy Editions, you can't adjust inventory sensitivity, which some might argue makes the game more fair on things like servers, where getting items out of a chest makes the difference between a win or loss. However, remember Bedrock is cross-platform, and anyone with a PC can whip their mouse from bottom to the top of the inventory in about 0 seconds, while the console players have to take the long way. Even worse, a touchscreen lets you instantly pick whatever you're after, so the fact that you can't adjust the interface sensitivity is straight up unfair. On the Legacy Edition, the inventory selector crosshair is cooperative and responsive. It moves where you tell it to, and it even has this quick handy feature where you can pop it from one side to the other if you're on an edge. You simply can't do this on Bedrock. As mentioned before, the selector has its own sensitivity bar, which you can adjust to your liking. The game came out 7 years before Bedrock, and it has things like this. Number 8. Render distance. Bedrock's simulation distance, although adjustable, is ridiculous. Mobs spawn in front of you while looking at them, and they despawn the second you turn around. Anything that requires you to be nearby has a stupid low distance requirement. Things like furnaces smelting, crops growing, animals existing, all require the player to be in such a short range of them. Although the Legacy Editions have a similar simulation distance, it's tied with loaded chunks, meaning if a chunk is visible and loaded in for the player, furnaces, crops, and animals will all function normally at a much farther distance than in Bedrock. Also, beacons. Beacons are supposed to be beacons. By definition, you're supposed to be able to see them from really far away. But in Bedrock, they only render in when you're like 10 blocks away, which literally makes them useless beyond their status effect bonuses. As you might expect, the Legacy beacons are visible from insane distances, as they should be. Number 9. Knockback Mechanics. This might be more of an update-specific thing, as in I'm not sure how this stuff works on Java, but it's a complaint nonetheless. Mobs, and more so players, have an insane knockback on Bedrock. When something hits you in this game, you are launched into the stratosphere. It's been amplified a lot in 1.16 with the new combat mechanics that literally nobody likes. Also, shields are entirely useless against mobs. Having to crouch to use shields was a necessary button map to make the game compatible with phones, but man, shields are just annoying in Bedrock. I'd argue a map is more useful in the offhand. On the Legacy editions, knockback is what you'd expect. It's universal, about one block a hit. Charging a skeleton is a lot easier because the arrows slow you down instead of stopping all momentum entirely and literally causing players to levitate while getting peppered with arrows. Number 10, saturation. Doing anything in Bedrock Edition straight up demolishes your hunger bar. You can sprint for what? 12 seconds before needing to eat food again, please. You spend more time eating food in Bedrock than you do covering ground. And that means you need to spend more time getting that food, meaning you have less time to do what you actually need to do. Even on easy mode, the rate your chicken wings disappear is outrageous. It turns Minecraft into eating cooked beef simulator. On Legacy Edition, food lasts much longer, giving you more time to, actually play the game. It's pretty straightforward. Although my hatred for this game extends beyond the 10 listed reasons here, I'm sure you'll dethrone my stance with a simple, no, you're wrong. I do like some aspects of the game. There are some things I wish were in old Minecraft, but I'll make do without them as I always have. If you've actually watched the entire video, just know I'm impressed. Most of my friends have the attention span of a watermelon.